Welcome, everybody. I'm really glad you're here with me today. It's Wednesday, and we are looking at Old Testament passages that point or talk about Jesus in some way or another. And today we have a real good one in that we're at 2 Samuel chapter 7, and it's starting at verse 12. And in this, God is speaking to David. He's telling David about what's going to happen to his family in the future. And of course, you remember that Jesus is in the line of David. David is his great, whatever grandfather. And so he's talking about it here. And the Lord declares that I will make a house for you, a destiny of kings. That's just before 13. Before 12. Now we're in 12. For when you die and are buried with your ancestors, I will raise up one of your descendants. There you go. There's maybe an example of the resurrection. I'll raise up one of your descendants. And that's exactly what happens to Jesus. He's one of David's descendants, and he's raised up. Your own offspring, and I will make his kingdom strong. This is describing Jesus. He is the one who will build a house, a temple for my name. And we know that Jesus builds a temple within each of us with the Holy Spirit. Our hearts, our bodies are now the temple of God. I will be his father. Well, Jesus calls God his father. And he will be my son. And this is my son in whom I am well pleased. If he sins, I will correct and discipline him with the rod, like any father would do. But my favor will not be taken from him as I took it from Saul, whom I removed from your sight. Your house and your kingdom will continue before me for all time, and your throne will be secure forever. Well, David's throne in Jesus Christ, King of all things, is secure forever. And so here is a direct, prediction by God of what he's going to do in Jesus Christ way back in 2 Samuel. And Peter is giving a sermon or a speech in Acts chapter 2. And he refers to this passage as well when he says, and he knew God and promised with an oath that one of David's own descendants would sit on his throne. David was looking into the future and speaking of the Messiah's resurrection. Here, Peter is referring back to this text that we just read. God has had this plan in mind for all time. And we need to get in our minds that God is heading somewhere, that he has a purpose, he has a reason, he knows what he's doing, and God is bringing us to a certain place. Now, we may not understand how that's going to work or what that's going to be about, but there is a direction. God is working in history and in our present day, probably in not ways we would ever recognize, but know for sure that God is working in your life, in this world, moving us and this world to a future where we are in him always, and where there will be no more sin, no more crying, no more tears, where God will have a wonderful place for all of us. That's a good thing to remember during the midst of this COVID, don't you think? That God actually has a plan. So trust that, and don't be worried about today. God bless and have a great day. Bye.